back off the floor. Hey BookTube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March. This is the 20 Bookish Questions tag, and I was tagged by Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff. The original was created by Buydebook, and I will put the links down below. And Jim's tag is really cool. I really enjoyed his answers. So Jim, thanks for tagging me. I think at one point, I almost thought I had done this before, but I couldn't find one that I did with these exact questions, but I think some of them may be similar to other tag questions I've already answered or things you already know about me anyway, but I'm going to do it because it looked like a lot of fun. So there are 20 questions, as in the 20 Bookish Questions tag. So bear with me. Question number 1, how many books are too many books in a series? Honestly, I rarely read series because I don't want to continue to read that many books in the same world. However, with some exceptions, I'm okay with a trilogy, but beyond that, it's too much. I lose interest. I read the Broken Earth trilogy from N.K. Jemisin and loved it. However, if a 4th book came out, I may not even bother picking it up because once I'm done, I move on, and my interest is all satisfied. Another one is the Discovery of Witches trilogy. The All Souls trilogy. It took me a minute to go look it up because I wanted to get it right. That started off as a trilogy with A Discovery of Witches, which I loved, was very entertaining. A Shadow of Night, and The Book of Life. And then, like, last couple of years, a 4th book came out called Time's Convert. I think it's a prequel to the whole trilogy, and I have it, but I haven't picked it up. I'd like to, I think. I'd like to pick it up. And then the biggest series that I'm actually still involved in is the Outlander series, and I think she's up to 8 or 9 books at that point. I read through the 4th book, Drums of Autumn, and I probably read a third of the 5th one, which was The Fiery Cross. And I was interested, but I stopped reading and never went back to it, and that was a few years ago. I probably will. The only issue is I've watched the series, so I'm not sure if I'm going to stay interested in the books, but they are very entertaining. So that's probably my only exception. Otherwise, I don't search out series. Number 2, how do you feel about cliffhangers? Sure. As long as, if it's a series, the end of the book, of each book, is most likely going to have a cliffhanger, and I won't do that if I even get involved in a series unless I have access to all of the books. But otherwise, if it's a cliffhanger at the end of every chapter, fine, that's great. Unless they're done manipulatively to kind of drag you into the next chapter. I've read some books like that that I haven't enjoyed. Number 3, hardback or paperback? Hardback. I love hardbacks. However, I'm noticing the older I get, it's way easier to read a paperback. But I hate mass market because they're too small. The print is too small. I like the trade paperback sizes. Number 4, favorite book. It has to be Middlemarch. Daniel Deronda is right up there, as is The Count of Monte Cristo. And they're all classics. I've had contemporary novels that I've loved dearly, and there are many nonfiction books that I've loved, but this one has got to be the far winner. I don't know, Daniel Deronda. I'm gonna have to reread those. We'll see. Number 5, least favorite book. I did a whole video on 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo. I think it's such trash. I'm with Jim here. I hated Catcher in the Rye. I think I read it a couple of times. I hate that book. I think it's, again, I can't. John Cheever short stories. I tried reading, I probably read 4 or 5 of those last year, and they're all the same to me, and I got bored, and I wasn't interested in his tone and the content and all of it. The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Murakami. I read that book, and it was a perfect example of what the frig did I just read, and what was the point? What is the point of this whole book? And then I tried to read Kafka on the Shore, and I think I got maybe 50 pages, and I'm like, I I don't have the time for this in my life. I want that time back that I spent on Murakami's novels, and I won't read another one. He is not the author for me. Number 6, love triangles, yes or no? Yeah, whatever, I don't care. Doesn't matter if it's done well, because they're typically done poorly, or it's just a lazy plot device, but it's fine. Number 7, the most recent book you just couldn't finish. The Female Man by Joanna Russ. And this was a buddy read with Britta Bohler. She finished the book. I gave up probably at the 75-page point, which was a third of the book. I couldn't do it. It was so weird and messed up writing, and it was like, what am I reading? So yeah, that was the one that I DNF'd. I wish I had gotten along with that book. Number 8, a book you're currently reading. I'm currently reading like 5 books, but I'll show you 2 of them. The first one is for maybe Midrash, and this is Islam by Karen Armstrong. It's a short history, and this is kind of a primer on the faith of Islam, and I'm reading this as a buddy read with Karen Evans for maybe Midrash, and so far it's fascinating. I know very little except what the media puts out about the Muslim faith. And already, both of us are like, wow, we've learned so much already on the origins of Islam. So this is really good. And the other one I've been reading for a read-along, and it's Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. I am really proud of myself because this is the 4th time I've attempted this book. And we will be done with it in our read-along group in about a week and a half. And I'm really enjoying it this time. It's not a 5-star read for me, but I am really enjoying the story, and I love her writing. So I'm really happy about myself for that one. Number 9, the last book you recommended to someone. I've had several people ask me where to start with George Eliot, and I have recommended Adam Bede. It's a wonderful novel. I've recommended Scenes of Clerical Life, which is her first compilation, and is very accessible, easy to read. And I've also recommended Silas Marner, which is coming up next, because those are a little bit shorter. Adam Bede is 400 and something pages, but it's a beautiful story, easy to get, easy to read. And that's a really good early George Eliot to read. I started with Middlemarch, and it's like, that was an 800 and something page book. And George Eliot is a complicated Victorian, and I don't know. I think I loved it so much because I was buddy reading it with Alba from Seriella, and we had a blast, and I just fell in love. So the other one is this one. I did a whole video on Buying Greenwood by Michael Christie. And Summer from Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats actually just gave away a copy of this, and this is gorgeous. And she, I think, got this book in the BookTube Spin number 2 that Rick McDonnell hosts. So I've recommended this to everybody I can talk to. This is a book I can tell anyone to go and read. It was wonderful. And so I think half of my book group is now reading it, and they all love it. Let's see, the oldest book you've read? I read Plato's Republic back in college, and I kind of liked it. And I think that was published in like 375 BC or BCE, whatever you want to call it. And I've read the Bible, and it's a pretty old book. So I don't know what the publication date is on the Bible. Yes, I do. Number 11, newest book you've read. I think the newest book that I've read that I want to recommend is The Prettiest Star by Carter Sickles. And that was published in May of 2020, so almost a year ago. I don't think I've read anything newer so far. But I really loved that book. I read it for the BookTube Prize, and it's a beautiful story of a young man who was living in New York City in the early 80s, discovers he has AIDS and he's dying, and decides to go back home to his family in Appalachia. And it's harrowing and it's raw, but it's ultimately a very beautiful story, and I really liked it. Favorite author, number 12. I know these questions aren't personalized to any particular booktuber, but George Eliot is clearly my favorite author. Number 13, buying books or borrowing books? Buying, absolutely. I do borrow from the library once in a while, but I always feel really I feel really guilty that I'm rejecting all of my own books. And I think they feel bad. And I remind myself, this isn't Toy Story. They're not alive and they don't have feelings. But I always have a hard time with getting books from the library. I absolutely 100% support that. I've gotten ebooks and audiobooks from the library. I will continue to use my library. But for the books that I never borrow books from a person or from a friend. I have a wonderful personal library, and that's because I love buying books. Number 14, a book you dislike that everyone else seems to love. I have two for this one. I just recently reviewed Unsheltered by Barbara Kingsolver. Ginormous disappointment of a novel I can't stand, and I finished the whole dang thing, and couldn't stand that book. I ranted and ranted. I'll put my video down below of my review rant. And the other one is a book that I was supposed to read for our last in real life book group with the Critical Chicks, and it is Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I got a sample from a sample Kindle selection, and I read the first 5 chapters or 8, whatever amount of chapters come with a Kindle sample. Couldn't stand the writing. Kristen Hanna is not good for me. Not good for me at all. It was on my Kindle, so I could have just thrown it across the room had it been a book. I probably will permanently delete it from my Kindle. I absolutely couldn't stand the writing. The story was fascinating to me, but the writing I thought was horrible. Sorry. And both of those books, there's so many people that I know of in real life that loved both of them. And sorry, not sorry. Number 15, bookmarks or dog ears? Bookmarks. The only time I dog ear something is there was one book, I think it was nonfiction. And I don't know why I have this delineation, but with nonfiction books, I will often dog ear. But I almost always use bookmarks for fiction. I don't know why. I use bookmarks with nonfiction too, but I really don't love to dog ear. Sometimes if I have an older book that I bought used, I buy used whenever I can, then I will dog ear though. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a disrespect to the book. I don't know. I really don't know why there's a difference. Number 16, a book you can always reread. Toni Morrison's Beloved. I think I'm on number 4 of a reread with this one. I'm not currently reading it, but I've read it about 4 times. I think it's a beautiful book, one of the best novels ever written, contemporary novels. And every single time I've read it, I've discovered something new in it. And it's a beautiful book. It's such an exceptionally well-written novel. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I've read this one about 3 times. I don't reread very often, but this one, I could read either of these two over again. And I will probably discover something new every time. And these both are keepers. Those are lifetime books. The other one is I plan on rereading Middlemarch, probably the beginning of next year, because I just really want to reread Middlemarch. It's a complicated storyline, not impossible, but it's a complex storyline. Lots of characters, lots of things happening, lots of nuances, and I want to reread it. And I probably will keep rereading it maybe once a year. I don't know. Number 17, can you read while hearing music? As long as it's instrumental. I don't like listening to singing or vocalizing when I'm reading. I used to be able to tune things out pretty easily back in the day. I'm not that great at it anymore, and I would prefer either quiet or soft music. Number 18, one point of view or multiple point of views? Either. I like either. I've read so many books with multiple point of views and alternating chapters, and I like that. I think Greenwood was like that. There were several points of view, and that was an outstanding book. There are other books. I just finished Roots, where it's a large amount is one perspective until that person's story is over, and then there's another one perspective and so on. But that book wasn't that successful for me. And so it could be either, as long as the multiple perspectives are clear and you can tell that there's a shift and it makes sense. So Number 19, do you read a book in one sitting or over multiple days? Usually over multiple days, unless it's in the Attica Lock reading group, because those were some of my buddy read fails. I could not stop reading. We started off with Bluebird. I think I blew through Bluebird in 2 days. I haven't read a book in a day for a really long time because, hello, life, and I just don't have that kind of extended amounts of time with nothing else to do or nobody else to interact with. So that hasn't happened for a very long time. But yes, over 2 days, I read Bluebird. Heaven, My Home, we read that one. I think we're next going to start reading. We have a group. We have an Attica Lock group. There's a bunch of us, and I think the next selection is Blackwater Rising. I suspect it's going to be the same thing because it's Attica Lock, and she's an excellent mystery writer. So, yeah. Let's see. That is it for me. Who am I tagging? Let's see. I don't want to tag all the same people all the time, but I will tag Mrs. Moody Reader. I just shouted her out in a video, my last video. I will tag Freddie, Sluggish Reader. I will tag, let's see, that's 2. I'll tag Summer at Cozy Reading for Quaker Cats. And I haven't checked to see if anybody has done this tag already. And I will tag Taking Tea with Catherine because I told her I would start tagging her because she was bemoaning the fact that she doesn't get tagged. So, Catherine, I'm tagging you. That's 4. And that'll do it for me for this tag. I hope you enjoyed my answers. Write me a comment down below with any feedback or any questions or anything that struck your fancy. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.